This is the famous Opera House in Vienna. It was built over 100 years ago, and they play music inside here that was written 200 years ago. Not a very likely site for cutting-edge computer technology. But things are changing here like everywhere else. Vienna used to be on the edge of the free world. It's now in the center of what will soon be the world's largest free market, thanks to the freeing of Eastern Europe and the coming together of the new United Western Europe. So it's not surprising that more than 500 of the world's top computer executives have come here to discuss the future of computing. Today we'll take you into the future world of computing as we visit the European Technology Roundtable exhibition on this special edition of the Computer Chronicles.
Computer Chronicles is made possible in part by the Software Publishers Association, providers of educational materials to help manage software. Don't copy that floppy.
Welcome to the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stuart Chaffee, and with me today is Alex Vieux here in this lovely Viennese garden. Alex is chairman of Dassault Inc. and the host of this European Technology Roundtable and Exhibition. Alex, I'm looking through your gorgeous book here, and I see, despite the fact that these are very tough economic times in the computer business, you've gotten 500 or more guys to spend $4,000 or $5,000 to come here to Vienna to go to this conference. What is the value they get out of this? Why is it worth so much?
You know, there are three reasons, and when I look at it, I can summarize it to you very easily. The first one is that people want to have information update. The second one is that they really want to make deals and more deals that they would not make elsewhere. And the third one is they're trying to optimize their time. Here you have information from Europe, from Asia, and from America. All that in a nutshell in 2 days. And that is something very valuable. All the CEOs don't want to meet an opportunity to know what is happening, the latest things in technology and in business in the field. The second one advantage that they find being here is that they can make deals here that they would not make elsewhere. Last year, Paralan met with IBM here, and today, Paralan servers bear the IBM logo. 2 years ago, Next defined its distribution network in 2 days at Opio, at ETRA, and it was something that it wasn't expected by Steve Jobs and his team. The third advantage is that all those people want to go to Europe and come to Europe, but they're trying to optimize their travel time. You know, when you have to travel to Europe, you have to go from Paris to London, from London to Copenhagen, and from Copenhagen to Frankfurt. Here, you come to Vienna, and you don't have to take another trip. So it's optimal.
Sounds great. Okay, you're going to attend this big shot computer conference and not have to spend a nickel. You'll hear from the likes of Jim Manzi of Lotus, Philippe Kahn of Borland, Scott McNeely of Sun, analyst Esther Dyson, and lots of others. But this computer conference is more than just talk. There are demonstrations here of some of the newest computer technology. So let's begin by visiting the technology room to see the future of personal computing. Multimedia was more than a buzzword at this computer conference. Applications were everywhere. This is Curtain Call from Brown Vogue, a multimedia presentation package that runs under Windows. It features sophisticated paint and animation modules, plus an easy-to-use scripting environment. The company was also showing off Blackbird, a complete video production studio on a PC. It can access 2 separate video sources, do a variety of transitions, and special effects. It's a mini toaster on a PC. This is Gain Momentum, an innovative multimedia development tool from Gain Technologies. It runs under Unix and offers visual representations of database information. The Voyager company was showing off its new multimedia electronic books, written especially for the Macintosh PowerBook. The books don't require a CD, they offer a full search engine, and you can buy a development kit to turn your own writing into an interactive multimedia book. Computer sounds were everywhere. Dragon Systems was showing off its newest version of Dragon Dictate, the next step toward the computerized stenographer.
Inquiry about speech recognition products, period.
Dragon announced a breakthrough with new versions that can understand French and German. Verbeck Systems unveiled its new continuous speech recognition system for Windows.
Switch to card file. Close window.
You can even use the Verbeck system to manipulate images or play games.
Switch to Tetris. Spin piece left.
Verbex announced the world's first speech recognition software for Chinese and Japanese.
Move piece left.
Perhaps the most innovative product on exhibit here was the new MathCAD for Windows from MathSoft. MathCAD defies description. It's a sort of combination word processor, spreadsheet, database CAD program. Each entry is a functional object that remembers its function no matter where you put it on the screen. Its developers still don't know what to call it: an interactive textbook, a smart scratchpad, or WYSIWYG mathematics. All these multimedia applications demand a lot from a computer platform: multitasking, graphic interface, and speed. No surprise, then, that the main topic of discussion at this computer conference was the operating systems war. Next up, the latest on Windows versus OS2 versus Unix. If you think Windows 3.1 is now the standard platform in the PC world, think again. At this International Computer Conference, the OS debate was hot and heavy, with people like Sun Microsystems CEO Scott McNealy saying the operating system battle is far from over.
It's going to be a nice battle because despite the huge lead in technology and market position and applications capture and scalability that we have, IBM and Microsoft will throw lots of dollars at OS2 and NT to establish a position in the marketplace. The good news is NT won't have the position that DOS Windows had on the desktop. OS2 won't have the position that DOS Windows had on the desktop. It's going to be a fair fight in the 32-bit enterprise computing environments.
For network users, there is the perception that Unix, in its many flavors, is the operating system of choice. But Microsoft says the dominance of the Windows platform, with 1 million new users every month, means even network users will become Windows fans.
Unix has achieved certainly a level of success at the server. It's achieved certain niches, particularly in engineering and scientific at the client, but I think the world's always better for additional choices. And for people who like the fixed definition that Windows NT provides, it doesn't have 4 or 5 or 53 different implementations the way Unix does. I think they'll see an advantage to having high-end operating system capabilities with the Windows user interface and with a consistent implementation, which is what we'll deliver with Windows. So I think we can make very good inroads on the client and on the server.
But the guys who sell Unix say the many implementations of Unix is a feature, not a problem, and that Microsoft's monopoly over DOS and Windows is what creates a problem for users.
Look how long it took Microsoft to make DOS a easy-to-use operating environment, almost to the better part of 8 years. In fact, Unix is over a 12-year-old operating system with very limited technology. Unix, though, has advanced greatly in terms of providing new benefits to users. Unix is basically a core technology. Try to think of it as automobile manufacturers. There's no proprietary engines or no proprietary wheels or steering wheels. We all use the basic technology and then build automobiles and compete in a very active marketplace. Some people build Chevys, some people build Lexus, some people build Mercedes, and I think that is what Unix provides, a core base of technology of which vendors like Sunsoft can build a product that users can exploit in their particular application.
And what about OS2? IBM says they also don't buy the Microsoft story that Windows can't be beat.
When you only have a hammer, you try to make every problem a nail. So Windows, Windows, Windows says you better like Windows or you don't have an answer from Microsoft. That's not our view. As IBM is a system supplier, we produce hardware and we'll run Windows software on it if that's what our customers want. We'll run OS2 on it if that's what they want. We're going to invest in OS2 because we have, we think, more than a year lead on NT. Technologically, we can bring advanced applications quicker to the industry, it can grow faster, and when Microsoft gets on the 32-bit campaign, when NT's here, I think it'll just grow again.
But while many computer types are rooting for OS2 almost as the underdog, most analysts say that, in fact, the game has already been won, and that IBM's predictions of ultimate victory for OS2 are hard to believe.
I find it hard to believe. There are a lot of times when you come to battle with your armor too late, and it seems to me this is one of them. I mean, they can keep it alive through, intravenous feeding, but you can't come to market with something 3 years late, and I think that's the same issue with the Next. something that would have been really great 2 or 3 years ago, it's a question of timing as well as product. It's a superior product, that's not the question, but the market niche passed.
The operating system war wasn't the only main event here at ETRA. The chip manufacturers were also out in force, and the theme there was Intel bashing, or in Scott McNeely's case, taking on Intel and Microsoft.
Intel and Microsoft have owned the implementations, they've controlled the implementations. It's not been capitalism, it's been centralized planning and control. Therefore, you don't have competition, you don't have innovation, you don't have it moving forward. And when you have slow-moving innovation, and the computer PC manufacturers, the Compaqs, the Dells, the Olivettis, have not been able to innovate because they haven't owned and controlled and had access to the chip technology and the OS technology.
The CEO of chipmaker Cyrix, Jerry Rogers, echoed McNeely's complaint about Intel and said that Intel founder Bob Noyce would have never made it in today's CPU market environment.
If Noyce had to put up with the kinds of things that Cyrix is putting up with today, there would be no Intel. I mean, Texas Instruments and IBM and Western Electric didn't try to squash Intel Corporation. They tried to give them some room to work in the marketplace. Intel has no desire at all to give us any room at all to work in the marketplace.
The CEO of AMD, Jerry Sanders, says computer consumers should be thankful that companies like Cyrix and AMD have opened up the chip market to competition, despite the long odds.
If you think about it, until AMD introduced its 386, and Intel was the sole supplier of that product, there was a shortage of personal computers, the number of suppliers in the industry were limited, and the customers were paying high prices. In the year and a half or so that we've been delivering 386s, the price of a 386 has come down from $200 to in the $35 range.
But in the high end of the chip market, the 66 megahertz 486, Jerry Rogers says that Intel is still making a killing.
I think that at the 66 megahertz, where Intel's selling the chip for $660 and it probably costs them $15 to build it, manufacturers selling the personal computer for $2,400, I'm sure that Michael Dell is not making $600 gross profit off of his computer as Intel is off the chip.
Lotus CEO Jim Manzi was also among the execs here who were unhappy with the practices of some of the big boys. His gripe was the systems developer, officially unnamed, who pays only lip service to the concept of open systems. Manzi said Lotus, through a product like Notes, is truly committed to open systems.
Its interfaces are open. We'll give them to anybody who wants them. We can't think of anything we can do to make this product more open. It runs on everything. It connects to everything. It is a far cry from a systems environment or a system software company that is trying to lock customers in to a particular systems environment and pretending it's open by using a lot of open words in front of it. And it's really just a disguised proprietary system, and they want people to get locked into it.
Whether it's applications, microprocessors, or operating systems, the stakes in today's quick-changing computer market are monumental. Next up, a look at the new global marketplace for hardware and software.
Austria is not known for its high-tech industry. You think of Vienna and you think instead of things like the Danube River, Strauss waltzes, or these very rich pastries and desserts you get here. But go shopping for a computer here and you'll see that Vienna has become like any other place in the world, an example of the new global computer marketplace.
With market share and profit margin shrinking in the United States, more and more computer companies are looking abroad to boost their sales. And one place they're looking in particular is the emerging market in Eastern and Central Europe.
Central Europe is real. Central Europe is also turning into visibly different markets. And there's the big three, Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, that are basically doing fine, thank you. They're real markets. They have distributors, they have dealers, they have market figures of a sort. they're sort of normal markets, the telephones work. Then there's Russia, which is huge. Everybody wants in, but it's still very primitive in every aspect you can think of.
While Eastern Europe is the play for the long term, Western Europe has become a critical market for short-term survival.
I think the European companies is important for any global computer company. First of all, because especially on the upstream, so the R&D, etc., we are operating in a global market where volumes is what is driving us. Therefore, you cannot ignore a market that will account for about 40% of the purchase orders.
But more countries in the computer marketplace means more than new customers. It also means new competitors.
All of a sudden, you ask any major corporation, whether they're in Austria or in Germany or the U.S., who their competitors are, and they list a bunch of competitors that they never would have thought of before. Largely as a function of being able to do things differently. And when you have different competitors, you have to think about your business differently, and what's been built into the management literature and all the discussion going on around cycle time reduction and time-based management and so on is all about getting competitive in against new competitors, where you generally have thinner margins, you're competing in new markets, you have to do things faster and so on. So that's what the global market's all about.
While most of the focus on the global market is on American companies exporting their technology, the high-tech highway is a two-way street. One surprisingly successful Eastern European exporter is the Hungarian company Graphisoft, and they're using the American market to learn how to sell to the world.
The first reason to go to the United States to learn marketing and to learn how a really large and really sophisticated market is working. So that's why in the first 2 years, in 89 and 90, we were not concentrating on profitability. We were concentrating on learning the US market, having the feedback from the US customers. Because the US market is the US industry, the US society, American society is far the most computerized society, which means that relatively simple people are using computers, unlike in Europe. So the feedback, the user feedback, what we are getting in the US is much more valuable for us for the future Europe.
On the hardware side, some American companies have been looking at the people resources of the former Soviet Union, and one company, Sun Microsystems, has plunged in with a major development deal in Russia.
We struck gold. I cannot think of anywhere else you can go to find the caliber of technologists that we've been able to enlist to the Spark Solaris effort. If you think about being a great computer scientist in the Soviet Union, where did you go work? You went to work not for Boeing or General Motors or Compaq or Microsoft or Sun. You went to work for the Computer Science Institute of the Soviet Union, and Boris ran this organization, and it's a 5,000 person organization, and the creme de la creme, the best of the best, absolutely we have signed up.
The Sun deal with Babayan is great, especially when they started it. It was, let's give these guys some pocket change and have them do some research and sort of be nice. And now they're saying, these guys are really good. You know, we could have them do a compiler for us. And so they've suddenly changed the tone completely to let's do some serious product development. And that's really nice. The Russians will get some training in finishing products, which is an area they're not strong in, to put it politely. And some will get some really neat technology. You don't find large, coherent research teams that much anymore.
Is it just that they're cheap, or are they really good in some unique way?
The Russians are really good.
The Soviets have very efficient computers. They are 2 to 3 times more efficient in many ways than Western computers, because they've implemented the pipelines and the architectures and the microkernels and the compiler technology far better than we have. They go a lot slower because they don't have the process technology, the silicon technology. Their disk drives are slow. Their I/O technology just isn't just the hardware manufacturing technology is not there to make the very efficient machine go fast.
Not surprisingly, at this global computer conference, global networking was also a hot topic. And 3Com CEO Eric Benhamou says the need to do business around the world is making computer users redefine the value of a personal computer.
What people are finding is that a computer by itself is not a very productive device unless it has access to information. This information typically is not available locally. It's available somewhere else in a building, or in the campus, or in a remote geography. Therefore, there has to be a network infrastructure in the middle that provides this link to the information base. Also, there has to be a support for the growing trend of distribution of organizations worldwide. In order to distribute decision-making and be close to customers and improve competitiveness, you have to accept geographic distribution, and you have to make up for it by having a network infrastructure to maintain communication.
But for Borland's Philippe Kahn, old-fashioned wired networks are not enough. He says computer networks have to become simple, transparent, digital, and wireless, an approach he calls radical simplification.
The biggest problem you have when you connect computers is that you have to do all these cables, and the cables are incompatible plugs, and that's, again, one that you can radically simplify. And how do you do that? You do that like the global positioning system, you know. We used to have a whole bunch of very complicated navigation systems for ships or for airplanes and all that, and now it's kind of all been solved by a bunch of satellites that are out there and that you can access at any time and give you your instantaneously your position anywhere in the world. Well, the same kind of global digital communications have to happen in our business.
Whatever the topic at this computer conference, what was really on everyone's mind was the global economy and the tremendous pressure on the profits of computer companies. Next up, the industry's top CEOs talk about what's ahead for America's computer industry.
It is assumed that technology drives the computer industry. But at this meeting of computer executives, some took the view that there was now more technology than consumers needed or wanted. Borland's Philippe Kahn saw it from the software perspective.
We had to provide radical simplification of the way of spreadsheets work. What had happened is people were competing on spreadsheets, adding features, but not changing the way that you related, you access those features. So less and less of the features were used, but they became piles up of features.
Zenith CEO Enrico Pesatore saw the same problem on the hardware side.
The platform manufacturer like Zenith Data System do try always to improve, or too many times, try to improve on technology for the sake of technology, not having necessarily in mind the needs of the customer. And what I think we need is not to think about technology, but to think about the evolving needs that each customer has in solving a business problem, not in getting a faster machine necessarily. Can be an answer, but cannot be an answer sometimes.
But others disagreed, saying technology still drives the computer marketplace.
Technology does matter. Hardware speed doesn't. Yeah, you can just get faster, but what the product actually does, whether things are compatible, this is not a business that can be run by shoe salesmen. Pardon the shoe salesman. You need to understand what these things are capable of doing. The technology is becoming simpler for the user, but it's becoming more complicated to understand how it all works together.
I believe technology and technology discontinuities are massive, are accelerating, and in no way have we coagulated to the point where technology has been taken out of the equation here. It's big time.
The technology that got the most attention here was not faster processors or more memory, but the replacement of mechanical storage devices with solid-state storage.
You realize that you need to be able to process a lot more data, a lot more information faster, and that's where there's a huge win if you're everything stored in RAM rather than in a disk that doesn't have very fast disk access, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where the big wins are.
AMD's Jerry Sanders predicted the elimination of mechanical storage drives within 3 years.
Flash memory, when you get to the 0.5 micron technology, which is the generation that we'll be producing in the Fujitsu AMD joint venture, the cost structure starts to rival the cost structure of using rotating memory. Now, rotating memory might be cheaper per bit, but when you look at the size of the memory that you'll want, particularly for portable applications, handheld applications, they start to cross over.
It was clear that major changes were taking place in the computer industry. Lotus CEO Jim Manzi spoke for nearly an hour and never mentioned 123. Philippe Kahn saw that as an admission of defeat.
Lotus has lost their leadership in spreadsheets several years ago, and now it's clear to everyone. And I think Jim knows that the war in the spreadsheet area is a war between Borland and Microsoft. Borland has the advantage on DOS. Microsoft has earlier present on Windows, but now we're shipping our Windows product, and there's very little space for his spreadsheets. And I think it's a smart thing he's doing. He's saying, okay, we're notes and a communications company.
Esther Dyson had a different read of Jim Manzi's new direction at Lotus.
He's trying to tell the world what he's figured out, what he figured out before most of Lotus figured out, that the growth is going to be in managing information, not data. And it's an interesting situation because he keeps on creating markets and beginning with 100% share, so the only way you can go is down. And he doesn't get enough respect for creating the market in the first place.
The changes at IBM were another sign of the times here. IBM's Lee Reiswick said the new IBM was for real, despite the doubts of analysts.
Looking at the outside, you might be suspicious about that. Being on the inside, I can tell you this is not the IBM I was part of, 5 years ago. And I think it's made a dramatic difference in the products, the people's attitude, and it'll make a difference in the financial results as that plays out broadly across our product line.
Esther Dyson didn't agree.
It's like Eastern Europe. You have a new government, but you don't necessarily have a new bureaucracy. And so it's really hard to change an organization that has such a history. So I'm pretty skeptical. I mean, they are a low-cost manufacturer, but they're a high-cost operator, and that's tough to change.
This is an industry in the midst of change, uncertain about the future and still struggling with one nagging question. With the billions of dollars that have been spent on computers over the past decade, can anyone prove that there is a real return on that investment?
I think the answer about has there been an ROI on all this billions upon billions of dollars spent on computer technology is that no one knows, and there isn't a simple answer to it.
A few years ago, it was popular to put objects, even people, under pyramids. There was some theory that magical vibrations took place in the space underneath the pyramid. Well, there were some unusual vibrations taking place at this computer conference, which was held under that pyramid. For example, we heard that Unix is the PC operating system of the future, that mainframes are PC peripherals, that speech and handwriting really will be the input modes of the future, that the computer business is not about technology, but about marketing, and that hardware and software have become mere commodities, generic products distinguishable only by price. Are the gurus right? You'll just have to stay tuned. That's it for this edition of Computer Chronicles. I'm Stuart Chaffee at the European Technology Roundtable exhibition in Vienna.